My name's Katya. I'm 26. I'm from London, and I've got Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And I was diagnosed 3 years ago. And I'm just going to talk for about 10 minutes, just a little bit more about my experience with EDS and kind of journey to diagnosis, and just going to share some insights about kind of what I've learned. So I have had symptoms all of my life. Always as a child, I was really fatigued. I'd always kind of feel in pain, had loads of like tummy aches and headaches. There was always kind of something wrong, but I never really kind of knew how to almost communicate it properly to my mum. And I'd go to the doctor, kind of with like key, very piecemeal issues, but it was never collated into one kind of full profile until a lot later in life. And so I managed to go to uni. I finished school, managed to go to uni, and I kind of started to experience some subluxations and dislocations at university. So I kind of when I was sleeping on the side, kind of side sleeping, I'd start to sublux my shoulders. And I went to a physio who just said, "Oh, it's hypermobility." That's kind of the only term I'd ever heard until a lot later. And then I had an accident. I went skiing in first year of uni, and I dislocated my knee kind of that way, and also kind of had an accident where I dislocated my thumb. So kind of started to get a few dislocations at uni, but kind of still kind of coping up till then. And then when I finished uni, I went straight to work in a film production company. It was a very kind of busy, stressful role, very, very long hours. I was there, well, first of all, I was only there for 5 weeks. I kind of say my body was clearly trying to tell me something, because my appendix ruptured after just 5 weeks. So I had to take a month off. Once I'd kind of recovered, went back in, but I was in so much pain still that I had to go for another laparoscopy surgery, and they found adhesions, which is essentially scar tissue that's kind of healed wrong, and this is probably because of EDS. Obviously the collagen is kind of different, so it's weaker or poorer, so it's likely that the adhesions might have been kind of the trouble healing from EDS. So finally I went back to work in a very, very stressful environment, and I wasn't told to do any physio after both of these surgeries. No one had advised me. Obviously I didn't have a diagnosis, but regardless, I wasn't advised this. And yeah, I was working really ridiculous hours with huge amounts of stress, and I wasn't taking care of myself. And definitely had no time to focus on exercise or kind of maintaining muscle. And little did I know, obviously at the time, I had no idea how crucial it is to kind of maintain muscle to support around the joints, because obviously with EDS it's a lot more lax. The kind of tissues are a lot more lax, so it means that you kind of need the muscles to help support and stop subluxations and dislocations. And I'd always had intermittent headaches, and around probably a year after the surgeries, in the winter, which is for me when mine get worse, I suddenly got like really excruciating, they just diagnosed it as chronic daily headache, kind of migraine. And the neurologist did a lying down MRI and couldn't find anything. And they were kind of, at the time it was very undiagnosed. They didn't really know what it was. There wasn't really anything that they thought that they could do. And it was triggered by movement, so kind of bending down or forwards, and kind of anything high impact, like absolutely no jumping, walking upstairs, awful. And I just didn't think I could stop. They didn't really have a diagnosis. They didn't really know what it could be. So I just continued working, literally with my head in my hands, at work. I'd actually got promoted at the time as well, so it was super busy. I didn't feel like I could stop, and that's something I really, really advise. Like, you should. Like, I shouldn't have kind of pushed myself this far. Anyway, so 7 months into this headache, I suddenly sublux for the first time ever my coccyx. now it actually wiggles. So I subluxed my coccyx, and then I went to the GP to try and ask for an NHS referral. This actually came 9 months later now, and just kept working on it, kept walking on it, kept going to work. Just kind of, I didn't really think A&E could do anything. Then my left hip subluxed, and then my right hip subluxed. So everything was kind of permanently subluxing, and I had shooting sciatica down my legs. I was in absolute agony, and I couldn't really walk anymore. So I told my bosses that I had to work from home, and that's when I kind of really was like, right, I need to kind of find out what this is. And this is when I finally, because I didn't know what a subluxation was, I'd never heard the term, and so I think I googled partial dislocation. So this is when I finally googled the right keywords, because I'd obviously only ever heard of hypermobility before this. So I finally googled the right keywords, and I found out what EDS was, and I found out about it on the EDS Society website from a kind of blog post, like article that they had explaining subluxations and dislocations. There was like a funny quote that's like, oops, just popped out for a while. And I was kind of just reading this, and the symptoms all just resonated with me, and I kind of looked into it in more detail, and I was like, wow, like it was like a light bulb moment. I was like, this is what it sounds like. This sounds like me. So I googled hypermobility, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, London, and I found the London Hypermobility Unit. I made an appointment with Professor Shikanza, and he diagnosed me with hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So this is now in 2018, which is 3 years ago. So I finally had the diagnosis, and he sent me off into different directions because EDS affects the whole body. It's obviously the connective tissue, which is absolutely everywhere in the body. So he sent me off in different directions, and I've kind of learned the tools kind of along the way, along with kind of where he sent me. So he sent me to a specific hypermobility physiotherapist, which is really important because after that I actually went to one on the NHS who didn't have knowledge of it, and actually it was really damaging because she really hurt me, and kind of, yeah, I've got an issue with my knees now. And then a podiatrist for custom orthotics, and then cognitive behavioural therapy for pain management. Which is where he kind of, the three kind of areas that he diagnosed and kind of discharged me to. So I kind of learned to manage from there. And the kind of main strategies that I want to share that I've learned over time. And well, I kind of got to grips for a couple of years with just learning all of these strategies, and then I was actually able to travel with EDS. It was something that I kind of had researched for a long time, and I really wanted to go, and I wasn't sure if it'd be possible, but I was finally able to go. I went for just under 4 months before COVID happened, and so I kind of created a platform called Positively Chronic Travels, essentially to just share kind of my insights and connect with the community, and just kind of about travel and life with chronic illness. But some of the management strategies that I would say are really useful with EDS for me, I find enhanced proprioception, so kind of awareness of where the body is in space, and kind of gait and posture, and kind of joint hyperextensions, whether you're standing with them fully locked back, strengthening the muscles around the joints, help from someone else to do kind of simple daily tasks. Obviously it can be super debilitating, there's such a myriad of symptoms, so help is really, really crucial. I find that pacing necessary weekly tasks and activities really, really useful, so kind of making sure that I'm only prioritising essential tasks, flexible working, less hours working, lots of breaks, listening to my body, and kind of not letting work kind of overcome my health, and kind of focusing on myself and management strategies as like a key. And then using my flare up toolkit. So if you haven't done this, I've jotted down a list of strategies that help with symptoms and pain relief. And if you haven't done this, I really recommend doing this, because I always find that I go totally blank when I'm in pain. So yes, I really recommend jotting down your flare-up toolkit. This is going to be unique for everyone because everyone's so different. But these are kind of like the strategies that have kind of just helped me in my journey. And I kind of share all of this on my Instagram. It's such an amazing place to connect with the community. I also have a website to just kind of share stuff that I've learned. But overall, I'd say obviously the kind of main overarching strategy for EDS, I'd say, is just kind of like a lifestyle change. So kind of the summarising one is just kind of focusing on finding that pain relief strategy, kind of noticing the symptom and then finding the pain relief strategy to kind of help, because there's so many symptoms, so it's just like something that you have to learn to live with, but by doing so it can kind of improve quality of life by kind of sourcing, changing your lifestyle, changing your routine, and just changing things that can help you live more comfortably. So yeah, in around 10 minutes, that's kind of summarising my journey and experience with chronic illness. Thank you for watching, and I hope maybe this resonates with you and has been helpful. And thank you.